I'm Pam Douglas. I'm the founder of the suite of programs for parents with babies known as Neuroprotective Developmental Care, which includes our NDC Baby Sleep Revolution, also known here in Australia as the Possums Sleep Program. I'd like to talk to you now about why the ideas of overstimulation and overtiredness in our babies are very unhelpful. Those two concepts alone of overtiredness and overstimulation can really make the days so much harder than they need to be for parents with babies. So in order to explain why those concepts are just not used in our NDC Baby Sleep Revolution or the Possums Sleep Program, I need to start by explaining to you about our baby's sensory needs and about the dial on our baby's sympathetic nervous system. So, let's talk about a baby's sensory needs. And this is a concept that's still not widely understood out there. But I know from all the latest neuroscience that our little ones are laying down neural templates from birth in direct response to rich and changing input across all their senses. What the little one can see and hear and smell and taste and touch, vestibular stimulation, kinesthetic stimulation. The baby actually has a biologically hardwired drive for rich and changing sensory motor input. And so our little ones will dial up when they find themselves in a low sensory environment that's not meeting their needs for this rich sensory motor nourishment. And unfortunately, the interior of our homes are very low sensory environments. So have you ever noticed that your little one dials down when you step outside the house? This would be because you've moved from our low sensory interior environment into the incredible complexity of sensory experience available to us in the natural environment or the outdoors environment. So we step out into the complexity of visual stimulation. If you think of even a single tree, although the baby can't focus on those leaves, the complexity of play of light and shadow and variations of green, 500,000 leaves compared to a single wall inside the house. And that's just a single tree. Moving into the shops or to friends or families' new interior environments can also wrap the baby in a new and exciting sensory experience. But inside the home, our little ones commonly dial up because the home is a low sensory, the interior of the home is very low sensory for them. Now, this is the second concept that I need to open up a little bit. This is the idea of the dial on the sympathetic nervous system. This is kind of a shorthand for those of you who are interested, for the sympathetic nervous system, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. But if we just talk about the sympathetic nervous system, if I dial up, if my sympathetic nervous system is dialing up, my heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, I might get a bit shaky and sweaty and flushed, I might have a really sort of anxious feeling in my gut. That's me dialing up. If your little one, your baby, starts to dial up, typically they start with that groaning and grunting and writhing, and then they start to get grizzly and a bit agitated, and then starts crying. That's the dial really turning up now. And if your baby's screaming, we would say that dial is turned up as high as it can possibly be. This kind of framing comes out of the neurobiological model of unsettled infant behaviour. So you can see that simply being inside the house in a very low sensory environment can cause the little one's dial on the sympathetic nervous system to turn up. But parents are told, that's a tired sign, get the baby down. But the baby's sleep pressure is not that high, and we'll talk about the sleep pressure later on as we open up the NDC Baby Sleep Revolution or Possums Sleep Program for you. So, in fact, the concept of overtiredness really creates communication confusion between parents and babies. The baby may be communicating one thing, perhaps a need for a richer sensory adventure, and the parents have been told to put on the sleep training lens and to understand the baby's dialing up as overtiredness. So battles over sleep can ensue, and everyone becomes even more dialed up. Often the little one's dialing up, needing a richer sensory experience, and the parents have been told, again using that sleep training lens, to interpret it as overstimulation, and the baby needs a quieter or dimmer environment, an environment that has less going on. And of course, that may actually cause the baby to dial up more. So you can see that these concepts of overstimulation and overtiredness are not evidence-based. They're very unhelpful for parents caring with babies. They can really create communication confusion between you and your baby. And I'd like to suggest that there really is another way of making the days so much more easier and enjoyable when we're thinking about your baby's sleep.